Hello and welcome to a chess game analysis. So this game was played yesterday, me playing black, my opponent who will not be named in this video, and I'm also showing perspective from my side, obviously because of me playing black, so you see black at the bottom, so perhaps I might flip the board later just to make it a bit more visible. This was game one of the match. We actually played two games. So I'm just going to be analysing this game, really just look at the key positions to look at and just some general points as well. Okay, so my opponent with no name played d4, which is one of the best opening moves actually. I mean, very popular opening move. e4 and knight to f3 are other good alternatives. And similarly for me play black, knight to f6, which is my preferred move against the queen's pawn opening. And now here, my opponent played knight c3. Better move actually is c4 straight away, and this goes into more like the kind of queen's gambit type openings, and the idea being that it just takes a little bit of more control over this d5 square. You see that white has a lot more space in the middle of the board, so it's a lot harder for black to play d5. I mean, black can potentially play d5 in this position, but here after we see the trade, then white just gained tempo with e4, and this is better for white. So I mean, this is just an example of the continuation, but this is a better position for white. But after knight c3, you see actually this is no longer possible because there's no pawn on c4. So unless we can just move this pawn here, that's not going to be happening. So d5 is a lot more effective for black now. We see just it's a lot more harder for white to take over control of the centre. It's a little bit more even. Nevertheless, knight c3 is still okay. It's just that c4 would have been better, a better opening to go into. This is the Chigorin variation of the queen's pawn opening, apparently. So f4, knight c6. So I will go over again. I'll just make this as a part one of this video, but I will be going over anything that I've missed in further parts, and as well as more of the game, because I've only analysed a certain section of the game. There are many variations that you can look at with each position, so obviously with any comments or questions I will produce further videos. So this being one of the first few times I've actually attempted to do such an analysis of the game. So anyway, e3, actually just going back to f4, a better move would have been bishop to f4 here. Bishop's a little bit blocked in after this move f4. You see the bishop's a bit miserable on c1. So knight c6, and then e3, e6, and now e4, which unfortunately is a mistake, as it's just losing material. With so knight takes was actually happened in the game. Actually, more accurate is d takes. D takes c4 is actually a little bit more precise. Knight takes c4, nevertheless. Knight takes and then d takes, which is the best move. And then here, knight to h3. Knight to h3 is a mistake because it just hangs the pawn on d4. Actually, so we just play queen takes, for example, and then now even if say c3 just takes the queen, check, and now white's lost castling rights. So this variation is good for black, for example. However, I basically made a mistake here and played b6, just missing this opportunity, and obviously white used the opportunity to defend the pawn. It's c3, so yep, serves me right. And then bishop to b7, so obviously now this attack no longer exists, so yeah, bishop to b7 is fine. And then knight to f2, so with obviously an attack on the e4 pawn. f5, which is the best move, just defending the pawn. And now queen to h5 check. There were other alternatives which were slightly better than this. Queen's a little bit out of place over here on this side of the board. Actually becomes a bit of a target later on in the game, so yeah, probably there have been better moves in this position here than queen to h5. I don't know, for example, say bishop to b5, something like that, or bishop to c4. Say bishop to c4. This would have been a better move. I see this pawn's a little bit weak, so it makes sense to attack that, develop a piece. But nevertheless, we get queen to h5 and then g6, which I think is the best move, and now queen to g5. So here, I think black can just take, or bishop to e7 is also fine, and then queen to g3, which is the best move. So well done for finding that move. That's the best square for the queen. Queen to d7, which is the best move, and then bishop to e2. So obviously with ideas of castling, and the bishop now has a little bit more manoeuvrability. Castling and castling, and now very important critical position to look at here. So black's move, I've already highlighted what the move is actually. h6 is actually the best move in this position, and it probably looks a bit strange because obviously the queen can take, which is actually what happened in the game. But there is a reason for that. So I'll just see if I can just find the variation, just so I can quickly flick through the moves here. So yeah, queen takes g6 is what happened in the game, and then rook to g8, rook d to g8, and what you'll notice is this the g file's open now, so there's no pawn here anymore, and this is unfortunately the problem with taking this pawn. The queen's become a target for attack, so black has a tempo, and now the queen has to retreat, for example, to h5, and now actually the best move is e3. And what you notice is this bishop, if this knight moves, this bishop now becomes active, so and this actually quickly escalates here with variations. Let's say, for example, bishop takes e3, then we have knight takes d4, and notice the bishop now attacking, so we've got two attackers on g2, and let's say bishop takes, just rook takes g2, and yeah, but black has a very big advantage in this position now. So let's say, as an example continuation, king takes h1, rook takes h2, check, discovered check, the rook has moved, the bishop's now checking the king, and then when the king, when the bishop can block, so obviously defended by the queen, we just take, and then queen takes, we just take the rook. So remember, black's always got this idea of the other rook coming to the g file, so it means that white doesn't have too many options in this position. So I'm not going to go too deep into that variation, but that's just okay, I've lost the position now, just bear with. Where were we? I think we're looking at h6, wasn't it? Yeah, so basically that's why we don't want to take the pawn on g6, even though it looks really tempting. E3 instead doesn't work because in this position, yeah, okay, it attacks the knight, but the g file's closed here still. So that's why h6 is the move we want to play first. So h6, which happened in the game, queen takes g6, and then rook g to g8. I think rook h8 was a little bit more precise, just not even worrying about the pawn on h6, just the other rook was quite well placed on this file, perhaps. Queen to h5. So here, actually, I missed the opportunity of playing e3, which would have been a better move. I just played king to b8, and unfortunately, it gives white just enough time to hold the position together. Yeah, so not as good a move. So we see b4, and again, e3 is still a good move in this position, but I overlooked it, so I played a6, basically just keeping the position locked down as best I could, but just failing to see the tactics and the position. Queen to h3, and then rook to g7. So rook to b1, and then b5, just almost kind of just wasting time really. And then c4. So the next position, really critical position to look at, was this one. So c4 is another mistake, unfortunately, and he just found the best move in this position. Knight takes d4. So we were attacking the bishop, winning a pawn. So bishop to d1 was a continuation, just doubling the rooks. So if queen takes, so we've got the rook check, so it just doesn't matter about that pawn. And then king to h1, so I think this was the game continuation, king to h1, and then e3, which is a good move, but yeah, you see we played a little bit too late, so the bishop's now open on this file. Knight to e4, which I believe was played. I'm not sure if this was the game continuation. I've got a feeling it might not have been knight to e4. But in any case, look at this variation: bishop takes, queen to f8. Yeah, this wasn't the game continuation. So I don't know what's happened there. So I'm looking for move 24. It's a bit strange. I believe I loaded this position, so. Okay, I can't find the continuation at the moment, so I'm going to leave the analysis there for part 1, and I will see you in part 2.